Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another special episode of Herschel Talkers. Got return guests David and Derrick. Finally got David on, no technical difficulties.
You can hear me this time.
We could hear him. He wasn't the weird. He wasn't the weird guy in the background. Make
I
sure,
have just this
please.
this ghost in the background that seems to be looking and doesn't say anything. And
I did get a couple of guys texting me like, "Hey, who's the guy in the background?" I had to explain it to him. I did.
He was the producer.
He was. He's an engineer.
I'm the probation officer.
Make sure to please rate and like our YouTube here and get the likes and reviews up. That'd be great. Jump right into it. Georgia coming off a 31-24 win over Mississippi State. Sorry, I know we had finally JT Daniels made his appearance. You guys can see that. What do you got? We'll jump right into it. 31-24. The positive was this guy right here, if you can see it. That was one of his passes. There was a dime, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, and the big question for you guys is, I know Kirby hated to hear it in the press conference. Why do you think it took so long?
That's the question for the ages. I don't think we're ever going to know the answer to in the short term, at least. Maybe it'll come out sometime in the distant future.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, wasn't he already slated to start the previous week before the Missouri game was postponed?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what really changed between the Florida game and 1 week later with his knee? I can't imagine anything real significant.
Yeah.
So there has to be some other story. There has to be some other reason that we just don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, well, he kind of gave an interview, JT Daniels did, saying that he wasn't cleared for the Arkansas game, but he's been cleared ever since, and that it was a coach's decision.
Yeah.
Well, then his dad came back and saying that, well, we appreciate Kirby looking out for our son's health and everything like that. So it's like kind of walking that back, I felt like a little bit. But I mean, it's just like David said. I mean, it's the $1 million question. Well, you'll probably never really know why he didn't play. But I mean, even if you go back 2 weeks, the way he played in that game and the way he moved, I mean, he could have been hopping around on one leg, and I think he still could have played in that Florida game, how he was throwing that ball. So it didn't show to me that 2 week difference made that much of a difference on his knee. I mean, maybe it did, but I mean, he looked like someone that was, that had been rehabbing and stuff like that. And, they say there's like replays of him limping a little bit, but you know how that is. When you haven't played hard on a leg that is injured, you're going to get those aches and pains to it just naturally.
Yeah, I agree. And you have to think, okay, him at not 100% is still a better option than Stetson Bennett with a sprained AC joint that occurred in that game and then against Florida. Then he came back and then Dwan Mathis. So, like, I mean, there's no way Kirby Smart doesn't play his best player, his best option there, unless he felt he had no choice. I feel like there's got to be more to the story that we just don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I think they asked him on the post conference, JT, when did they come to you and say it? I think was it last Monday is when they told him. I guess they didn't announce until Thursday, but they said, "Hey, you're going to be the man."
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, what changed in a couple of days? I don't know.
And then I think we even talked with Derrick and some of my other friends. The whole time is you start him, and if he just slings it around, Kirby's probably thinking deep down, "I'm glad we got the win, but I gotta answer all these stupid, questions.
Yep.
It's coming. So you knew it was coming. So.
Well, I mean, but you can't. That's the one thing that killed me was, if he was, still injured and everything with his leg, that's fine. Just, when you give the press conference, say, his leg isn't healthy enough. We don't feel comfortable with him being out there yet. But it was after every game, he's been cleared to play. Okay,
Right.
well, if he's been cleared to play, then why isn't he playing? Because he just showed like, dude has an awesome NFL arm for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just dropping dimes.
And accurate too. It was
Yes.
that combination because we had
Very.
we had that NFL caliber arm with Easton. I know he's just a true freshman when he played for us, but the accuracy was definitely not there.
Right.
and Fromm could be accurate until the second half of last year, but he didn't have the NFL arm strength. And
Yeah.
this
Right.
guy just looked like there was no throw he wasn't afraid to make, and no throw he didn't feel confident in his ability to put that ball where he wanted to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, JT slung it around the yard, 28 of 38, 401 for 4 touchdowns. I think they were bringing up, like, when's the last time a Georgia quarterback did that? I think they brought up maybe
It's
Murray.
Aaron Murray.
Aaron
Yeah.
Murray.
Which
I think it
Aaron
was Aaron
Murray.
Murray in
Aaron
2013.
Murray.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, that's just crazy to think.
It was.
But
That's what we've been waiting on. But and then the negative though, this was really surprising. 8 yards. Like if you would have said, a stat before the game, hey, Georgia only get 8 rushing yards, you're probably thinking like, man, Mississippi State.
right, and I know like in college the sack yards come out of the rushing yards, so you could add 25 to that, but that's still terrible.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I mean, Mississippi State was stacking the box, and clearly their plan was to stop the run, but we still should have been able to get something going in the run game.
Yeah.
In spite of that. I mean, we had games in 2017 where that's all teams were doing, and especially, probably the first 2/3 of that year with the true freshman Jake Fromm, the coaches were just asking him to be a game manager and really limiting his number of pass attempts.
Yeah.
So it was, they knew it was coming, and we still found a way to do it in spite of it. I mean, to not rush for at least 100 yards as a team is pretty bad, even if they're stacking the box.
Yeah, and then the whole thing about them only having 60 scholarship players, I felt like we should have wore them down. They didn't have any depth.
Right.
And then also I heard that, I guess quietly, they were 24th against the rush, but still we've ran the ball on everyone. So do you think this going forward, is it like a one-off, or do you think we're going to struggle, or what do you think? That was just a bad game? They just got whipped, as Kirby said, offensive line?
I think it's only time will tell. I think it was a one-off. I think they were stacking the box because no one knew what we had in JT Daniels, for one. Two,
Right.
was he going to be healthy enough to make those kind of throws? So I think they were stacking the box. I think the other problem that we have is, Zeus is really good, at extending plays and especially at the goal line, he's real big. But the only thing that kills me when people are blitzing and things like that, he just runs straight at them like he's going to run them all over instead of run to the long side of the field. He always goes to the short end of the field and goes to that side and gets like only 2 yards.
I agree. I felt that not having Milton in that game
was
really
huge.
did hurt us because I thought from early in the year that he's our best all-around running back.
Yeah.
He's got the power, and he's elusive, and he has better vision than Tamir White at this point.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think our running game would have been a lot better if he'd been able to play.
And then you got back McIntosh, but he almost seems like he's not quite back, is 100%. He's trying.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
I don't think he's 100%.
yeah.
And then James Cook, Cook just needs to. They need to move him out to where he's more of like a hybrid wide receiver. Because he's got great hands. It's just when he runs, he doesn't go very far. So he's not as elusive as like a Milton can be. And if you're not big, you're not going to run over people all the time. So, you got to figure out other ways to move the ball.
Right.
Late in that game in the fourth quarter, when it was clear we just weren't going to be able to get our run game going, I actually got a little bit frustrated that we weren't just essentially abandoning the run, which is weird as a Georgia fan to feel that way during a game. But it was like, our passing game was so effective and they had such a hard time stopping it. I kind of felt like, why don't we just essentially abandon that and replace our run game with the short pass game?
Oh, yeah.
And that was, I think that it was all working in the passing game.
Yeah, I was texting with a buddy. I was like, man, throw it every damn play. I think I texted that. I was like, just throw it.
Yeah.
Do anything
I was saying that in the house to my wife. I was kind of screaming it at the TV. Just quit handing it off. Why are we handing it off?
Yes, exactly.
And I felt like the other positive was Jermaine Burton Pickens. Glad to see him back. You think this is Burton's coming out party? What do you guys think? And I feel like that's your top three. And it was also great to see Fally D-Rob come off a milk carton. Where's that guy been? So
yes.
Right. And we didn't even really get our tight ends into the game much.
Right.
And you can't really expect a guy in his first ever start at this school in this offense to, be doing the entire offense, but it seemed like it was close. But we have two pretty decent tight ends, including a true freshman. I think is going to be really good. So
Yep.
Right.
that's an element that we could utilize in future games.
My thing is, why is it taking us so long to get Demetrius Robertson involved in the offense? I just that's to me that's one of because I think he has some of the fastest speed when it comes to our wide receivers on offense of
Yeah.
any of our guys. And I think you could tell. I feel like Jermaine Burton and JT, they have some type of relationship. I don't know if it's his favorite
It looked
target
that
in
way. Yeah,
practice.
they
Yeah,
had
you,
chemistry.
yeah, you could just see it. Burton knew where he was throwing it,
Yeah.
and it was just like that. You could tell they've been working. And same thing with Pickens. You could tell Pickens was having a great time to have someone to throw to him, because that's he'll catch about anything that comes his way. He needs someone to throw him the ball.
Right.
Burton looked like a better route runner
Yeah,
than Pickens in that
I
game,
agree.
and that could have just been what he was asked to do in that game, and Pickens coming off of an injury. But uh, we have playmakers at wide receiver. Georgia fans have been complaining about that this year,
Yeah.
and I felt like we did, but we just didn't have the quarterback play to show you that.
Yeah. Who's Jermaine? To me, he's kind of deceptively quick. He's like, I don't know what his 40 time is, but he's quick. Who does Jermaine Burton remind you of, you think? Like anybody in the past? I think maybe like a Malcolm Mitchell kind of. Does he kind of remind you of him, or who does he? He's kind of like he's deceptively fast.
He, I don't know if this is the greatest comparison, but he reminds me a little bit of Amari Cooper,
Okay.
the way he was, because he wasn't a really big receiver.
Right.
He
Yeah.
was fast, but not a burner, but he was really a really good route runner.
Mhm.
And by his senior year, his route tree was basically an NFL route tree where he was running all 7 routes, and they used him that way. And he had good hands. If the ball came his way, he rarely ever dropped it.
Right.
Burton's a true freshman, but even as a true freshman, you can see that his route tree is not just 2 routes. And as he develops, I'm sure that will grow.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Well, hopefully we got this coming out party. It seems like Pickens will throw to him more, so he'll stay. Hopefully, no transfer rumors. Keep him happy. But I guess the other negative is Will Rogers in the first half at least had dinking and dunked him to death. 41 to 52. That's crazy. What did you guys see on the defensive side? I know we weren't getting pressure. They were kind of dinking and dunking. I know they didn't give up like explosive plays, but they were just like 8, 10 yards. It's almost like going against the triple option. I heard it's like triple option, but the opposite with the pass routes. So
I feel like they exposed our secondary big, and
yeah.
I feel like because that's one of the things that happened in the Florida game was we couldn't cover anything. Happened in the Bama game too against top receivers, and I think it just helped expose that we definitely have some issues in the secondary and not being able to get any pressure on the quarterback. I mean, if you can't get pressure on the QB, he's going to sit back there and he's going to find somebody open.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just what was happening.
To me, I thought the issue, I do agree there were issues in the secondary. I thought issue number one on the defense was we came in with a game plan to do something that just is so completely foreign to what our scheme is and what we do. We were clearly using what had been successful against Mississippi State on film from other defenses against them, but we had that. Basically, we just had 3 men, a 3-man line, and then we dropped 8.
Yeah.
And that is not what our defense is. And
No.
at some point in the third quarter, Lanning pretty much threw that game plan entirely out the window. And then they just went back to the Georgia defensive scheme, like our base scheme that we run. And from that point on, it completely slowed Mississippi State down.
Yeah.
I think if we'd come into that game and run our normal defensive scheme, it would probably have taken 7 to 10 points off the board for them.
Right.
I thought that was number one. It was just like all of a sudden in the second half we're getting more pressure because we're going back to what we do, where we've got, we're putting 4 men on the line a lot, and sometimes we're bringing 6.
Yeah.
I also think in that particular game we really missed Richard LeCount.
Yeah.
I think that would have made a big difference.
Oh yeah.
I was going to ask you guys, I still think, I agree with that totally. Richard accounting, then do you think not having Jordan Davis clogging up the middle? And then I was talking with, you guys know Sean, he's bringing it up that maybe he won't ever do it, but maybe Kirby's scheme of that, 3-4-4 is almost getting not outdated, but these elite offenses are just burning it. Like maybe to slow down these defenses, maybe switch it up. I don't know if that's 4-3 or he just think if you don't have that kind of big monster in the middle like Jordan Davis, that you're going to always struggle. What do you guys think on that? Or
That's a really good point.
yeah,
Right.
I mean,
I
I know it's
mean,
part of recruiting. Maybe it's Trey Scott's not getting the elite of the lead on the defensive tackles. I know recruiting's hard, but I don't know. That was just a thought.
but yeah, he's that. If you have that guy that can eat up blocks and eat up double teams,
Yeah.
then that allows that scheme to go. I mean, Jordan Davis has been that. Back in 2017, we had Atkins, and he helped free up Roquan Smith to just run free unblocked that whole year.
Yeah, I agree. So that's a pretty good point. But good win. I mean, it was an ugly win, but we'll take it. I think we got us a quarterback now. And then moving on this week, we got what's the nicknames now? I can't call them the Boom Chickens anymore. Muschamp. But Gamecocks, what do you guys like them? Derrick, I know you like calling them.
the game chickens.
Exactly. And then Derrick's got house divided with the wife. So, and we do have a little revenge from last year. Terrible game. What was it, 2017 last year? 4 turnovers. So,
Right.
it'll be a rivalry game. But
it's going to be interesting to see what quarterback they play, because that the guy that they brought in place of Hill last week for them actually started to turn their offense around, because they weren't putting up no points last week.
Yeah.
And he came in. I think he's a freshman or something for them.
Remind
But
me who they played last week.
17.
it was Missouri. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah, it was the Battle of the Columbias.
yeah. So what's
Actually, it's this guy Dottie. Is that his name?
Dottie, that's it.
I actually looked him up. He's Myrtle Beach 4-star. I don't know. He looked pretty good on the film, but is he dual threat? But I mean, 423, maybe moved around. Looks like 11 for 59, so maybe he's like dual threat.
Yep.
true?
I did
At the
hear
same time,
they're banged up in their secondary, which could help us.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, they didn't even score till the second half. I don't think in that game.
Well, that's
So
when
it's-
they put him in the second half, because Hill I believe that he played the first half and they didn't put up any points.
Yeah. I mean, and Texas A&M a couple weeks ago hung 48-3 on them. I just feel like with their secondary, the guys second out, and then how motivated are they going to be? What are they? 2-6. Is Bobo going to try to get him up? Does Bobo get him motivated because it's his old team? Because I've heard he's been a little salty since leading Georgia. What do you think about the whole Bobo thing?
Hey, it's 2 old teammates going at each other,
Yeah.
and Kirby and Bobo, and it was probably a little different vibe than with Muschamp, because I think Kirby and Muschamp were only teammates for 1 year, whereas Kirby and Bobo were most of their careers at Georgia were spent being on the same team.
Right.
Yeah.
How about this Harris kid? He's pretty good, isn't he?
Oh man, he's a workhorse for them. He's a very underrated running back. He is really good.
Right. Okay, the point spread's 21.5. I know it's a Columbia, it's a night game. I have no idea about the weather. I think I looked at it 50-50 chance of rain, which could change. So what's your guys' prediction on this one? You think 21.5, or think it's going to be ugly? JT comes out and slings it around. We're going to try to lean on them. I don't want to hear lean on them or chop wood anymore. How about that?
I actually like Georgia to win this game decisively.
Yeah.
Revenge.
Yeah, and I think it changes the team a little bit right now. I'm sure they're deflated. They're basically out of the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
But it's a real spark to know that you actually have a real deal quarterback that can score points, and that helps a lot. So you can score points in more than one way. So I like Georgia big in this game.
Yeah, I like Georgia big in this game. I'm picking 38-10 Georgia.
Yeah, I was going to say 35-10, something like that.
Yeah.
I think they cover. I just think they're going to be motivated, even though it's a night game. Hopefully get another win, no injuries.
Yeah.
And then looking ahead, you got Vanderbilt, terrible, and then hopefully they get my Missouri game. So from what I've been seeing, if we went out, maybe play Peach Bowl. It's against Cincinnati. What do you guys think about that? Decent. I know it's not where we want to be, but I feel like
I've heard Capital One Bowl against Indiana. Another, I've heard that one too. Like it's the those two bowl games aren't really surprising places to end up after this kind of year, but the potential opponents are like, who?
The the only thing that worries me is the past few years of when we've gone to, if it's a New Year's 6-day bowl or whatever bowl, the motivation just hasn't fully been there.
yeah.
So that's the only thing that worries me. And say if we get Cincinnati, because they may be in the American Conference, but that team is no joke.
I do think one thing that could make that a little different this year is that, in the last two previous years, we were in the national championship picture until the postseason, until the SEC championship game. And then that was just the very next game. And they have more time to digest their fate at this point in the year. So that could change the dynamic at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's I think, we can get JT rolling. Hopefully he'll stay. And then, we'll get Brock Vandergrift, PVG on campus in January, get him going. And then maybe JT probably be there only one more year, stay healthy. And then it'll be Brock's team, 2022. I hope he's not like Fields and wants to play right away. I hope he's, all dog. What do you guys think? That'd be the ideal situation?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if JT Daniels is back next year, there's just no way he's not the starter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's your best guy, no question.
Yeah. And it isn't a from field situation, because the difference is JT can chuck that ball. So, he definitely has a bigger arm than From had. So I don't know. I think Brock comes in and kind of, is able to learn a little bit behind him, and then gets. But I do hope, though, if he does come into games where, say, it's a blowout or anything like that, and Kirby plays him, Kirby lets him throw it.
Yeah.
Because that was one thing that you didn't really get to see Fields do when he came into games. It was just handing the ball off. Let him throw it and, see what we got a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Kind of similar to what Bama's doing with Bryce Young.
Yep.
Mac Jones, similar to JT Daniels, let him sling around, get up, and then put him in and let him run some routes, or throw it.
Oh, yeah.
How about transfer-wise? You think Mathis, Sia, maybe Beck's kind of going to be in limbo? What do you guys think?
Who knows with quarterbacks anymore?
Yeah.
We might have some attrition.
Yeah, it could go all different ways. If Beck is, if he's got the talent going on and stuff, I could definitely see him going somewhere. I don't know about Mathis, just because, I don't know. The times he was in the game, he just, I don't know. He just didn't have that instinct of, I'm going to do what it takes. And it was sometimes felt like he was afraid, which I understand, to get hit and things like that after he got that one hit when he was in that game. And after that, he wasn't, he just wasn't the same.
Right.
And then against Florida, he just didn't look quite ready. He didn't look ready to be a college starter.
Right.
I mean, there was that play against where he just absolutely missed a totally wide open Demetrius Robertson.
Yep.
The end of that game still frustrates me, because we should have scored there, and then we dropped an easy pick six, and we actually could have been at the end of that game leading by 1 point. As bad as we played.
And then I think Derrick saw it, and I saw it, that Instagram where he's warming up and he throws it to the ball dude. Just late, you're like, Jesus.
Cool. Did you see JT give him a look? Oh, yeah. JT Daniels looked at him like, "What are you doing, man?"
He's going in. I'm here, coach. We'll always look back on that one, I'm sure. And then transition into college football playoffs. I think they're actually, is it this week or next week?
No, it's tonight, I think.
Okay. Well, do you agree with these? And if you had to pick your four, who do you think is going to be in there now? I know we still got some games to play, but
I think the playoff committee has shown So I think they're going to keep it the way the AP and the coaches poll have it, because Bama will end up playing Florida in the SEC championship if everything keeps up the way it is. So that'll be 1 versus 5, and then Notre Dame and Clemson still have to play. Now the question that comes is, if Clemson beats Notre Dame and say it's close, does Notre Dame stay in? Which, in my opinion, they should. But the conversation that will be, well, they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, and then when they got him, they beat him. Well, that backup quarterback DJ had over 400 yards throwing. There wasn't much more I don't think Trevor could have done in that game.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I think of the 4, I think Notre Dame's in the best position in my opinion, because all they have to do is stay undefeated going into the ACC championship, and as long as they keep it close and don't get blown out, I don't see how there's any way that they don't get in.
Yeah, and this might be a different kind of playoff because of those teams, even in the top 6, if you include Texas A&M. I don't really see a formidable defense anywhere in there. And typically in those playoff games, Notre Dame gets really shut down because they tend to play a team with a much better defense that's explosive, but they're a team that's pretty explosive offensively with a senior quarterback who I think is actually pretty good. So it's Notre Dame, so they're not winning the national championship, but they might be a lot more competitive if they make the playoff than they have been in past years.
Yeah, how about this scenario? Just saying, if let's say, all right, Alabama clearly, I think hands down the best. They'll beat anybody by 2 or 3 right now.
Yeah.
The defense is getting better. Let's say Notre Dame knocked off Clemson, Ohio State. Who do you think? And then Florida's out. Who do you think would get that 4th spot in your opinion?
Maybe Texas A&M.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it should be Cincinnati.
Okay.
Texas A&M got blown out by Alabama earlier in the season. There's no way that they get in there. They're just going to get blown out again by Bama.
Yeah.
So it's A&M had their shot earlier in the season against Bama, and they got beat by over 3 scores. So I mean, from what I've watched some of the games of Cincinnati, and that quarterback and that offense that they run it's pretty good.
Right.
Well, on the other side of that, with Texas A&M versus Alabama, that was a 100% Alabama team, and they're down a really good wide receiver, and I don't think they've really been tested since then. And that could change things against anybody really good.
I will say I was impressed that they hung a 60 burger on Kentucky, even though if you're playing school blind, that's still damn good, Jeez.
That to me was one of those where it seemed like they were really trying to run the score up.
Yeah, trying to make a point. All right, and we'll talk. One of my favorite things to talk about is hot seat. First off, I know Will Muschamp, of course, got fired last week. Any rumors, or if you were AD at South Carolina, what kind of names or who would you be looking at out there, or what do you guys heard for South Carolina?
If I was at South Carolina, if I was in control of the coaching search, there's only one guy. His last name ends in Freeze.
Okay.
At Liberty, that's the only option, because you got to look at it. You got to entice him to come there. He'll have no pressure. You get us to some bowl games consistency. Right. We're going to be happy with that. But you also have to remember they would then actually have a coach that has success against Saban. He is like Saban's kryptonite. Right. When Saban plays him, for some reason, that is the one coach Saban has issues with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can get that upper hand, I mean, I would take him, but I've heard rumors that the Army coach is in consideration. Why you would ever think of the triple option? Why don't you call Paul Johnson and find out how that's worked out?
Well, they hired a defensive coach in Muschamp who, as a head coach in 2 stops, never really figured out the offense.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. They need to hire an offensive coach. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing about Freeze is he's not going to be able to get away with spending as many bags of cash on players as he did at Ole Miss. So it's South Carolina.
Just keep those tracker phones away, man. It'll be all right.
That's it.
Yeah, don't call prostitutes on your school phone.
Next one is he got a win last week. It was ugly, but Harbaugh, I think this is it for him. Does he go back to the NFL?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and think about it. this is his last year on his contract. Michigan's not going to fire him during the regular season because they don't want to have to pay him any extra money. So let his
Okay.
contract run out, and then you can just go find another coach. They're probably top candidate.
Is he really a lame duck coach though? Because that almost never happens in college
Yeah,
football.
he
They
is.
usually give that guy a couple extra years just for recruiting purposes.
No, it's his last year.
Wow. So they don't actually have a buyout. Well, that changes things.
No,
Yeah, I think he's gone. He wasn't as good. He wasn't a good enough recruiter at Michigan to
it's
beat Ohio State.
It's tough to recruit up there. It's cold. It's not. It's kind of, they live off the days of just like Nebraska does. Well, we used to be a powerhouse. I mean, that's great, and you have the big house and you have a big stadium, but it's different recruiting up there. And Michigan's in a tough spot because probably the top guy that they would want to go after, Luke Fickell at Cincinnati, he's an Ohio State guy. I don't see him going to Michigan.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they flash that money in front of him, and if he was to move on from. But I don't think he would take the Michigan job.
How about if they go after somebody like Urban Meyer and stick Ohio State in the back? How bad would that be?
Oh man, that would be, it would be funny, but I don't.
Yeah, that would be Urban Meyer with this whole ridiculous shenanigans when he was at Ohio State of banning any Michigan colors from in the building or for anyone wearing them and kicking him out. It's like just stupid. So, and that'd be really funny to see him go to Michigan. But
I feel like Derek Mason's on there. It's Vanderbilt. Who you gonna get? Who would want to take that job? It's just hard.
Dude, I know it sounds weird, but Penn State struggling. They're off to the worst start ever. If I was Vanderbilt, I would give a call to Franklin and say, "Hey, you want to come back and you got no pressure. Like do what you did before, get us 6 wins, and we'll be happy."
Yeah.
There might be too much of a buyout involved because he had a pretty good year. I think 2 years ago, probably got an extension.
Yeah, but
you can give him a pass this year, COVID. But next year, if you continue, get a look.
Nah, I think they're one of the first teams to be in the preseason top 10 and to start the season without a win.
That's crazy. I think that's the worst start in.
In their program history, it's the worst start. I mean, think of how long they've been around. I mean,
they didn't do that bad the year the Joe Paterno got fired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's you got to look at, like, Franklin had all this. He has playmakers on that team. That's the thing. Like, and you haven't won, and they're getting manhandled in all their games.
Yeah.
Something's got to be happening in that locker room because that's a team that's just quit.
Yeah.
And then last one, you think Coach O's safe? A lot of smoke around him. I mean, you just want a natty. What do you think?
He's safer now. But
look at
there's a lot of the allegations is what's going to do that could do him in. Yeah. All those articles from Yahoo and stuff, and the ignored of the abuse and everything. That's something to keep an eye on. I know it. But
sound like he's going to play with the ladies too.
Yeah,
that might do him in, but I don't think it'll do him in immediately.
All depends on the pressure that gets applied.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, do you guys want to bring up anything else? I think that's all I had. We got any good recruiting coming up? Any rumors on that? I know we had Small Munden last week. We're number 5, I think, on 247.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird week because this should be rivalry weekend in college football with everybody playing their end-of-the-year rivals, and it's not. It kind of throws the schedule off.
I agree.
There's the sports equilibrium. I have a sports schedule that kind of helps me keep track of the year, and it's totally off. It's totally off.
I just hope we get most of the games. There are not any late cancellations because of COVID. Because after that Clemson thing, you got to hold your breath till the kickoff.
Right.
That's the thing that, I wonder about the playoffs is, when these teams go, what's going to be the protocol if one of those teams, a bunch of players get COVID and they have to cancel the playoff game? How are they going to make that? When are they going to get to make it up? Because, I mean, they have to wait a week, don't they? So it's, then it throws a wrench into a bunch of stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see, I think, as it gets closer, how all that kind of stuff's going to play out.
Right. That'll be who knows with all that. But yeah, the Clemson game getting canceled, I wasn't totally shocked just because previously they had uninfected Trevor Lawrence on the sideline on a road game where he traveled. I mean,
I didn't
that's
understand that.
ridiculous and really, really arrogant on the part of Dabo Sweeney. And after you do that, your opponents are not going to trust you.
Oh yeah.
Hey, what do y'all think about Dabo calling out the FSU like administration pretty much about the game getting canceled, saying that they were just hiding behind the COVID to get the game canceled pretty much?
Yeah, I thought that was a bad look. I can see why, because they're at the hotel, they were there, but I mean, kind of weird situation for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, FSU had their own COVID issues, so